What is going on, fight fans? Welcome to yet another episode of the MMA show. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate you. If you're new here, welcome. And if you're been listening for a bit, then welcome back, man. Thank you so much for coming back. If you like the content, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Don't forget to also leave a comment. Tell me how you feel, man. So just be nice about it. So we do have a lot to talk about. We had a couple of fights that got announced here the past week or so in the UFC world. And then we also have big event this Saturday. We have UFC 302 being headlined by Dustin El Diamante Poirier versus Islam Makhachev. So should be a pretty good fight. I always love lightweight mega fights, bro. Like lightweight probably for the past decade has been the fucking division that has had consistently the most like high level fights throughout the years. Like there's no other. Like, yeah, you have outliers in other divisions like John Jones and shit like that, or, Izzy. But as far as having a top 10 just full of fucking assassins, bro, and creating these super fights that are like, holy shit, these guys are really fighting each other. They're both ranked, 4, 5, 2, 3, whatever. Lightweight has been pretty consistently giving that to us in the past, I don't know, fucking decade or forever. I don't know. So yeah, it's been fun to watch, man, for sure. We'll talk about the main event here in a second, and we'll break down the whole card, the main card at least. But yeah, man, like I said, we had another couple of other fights announced this past week. The first one I wanted to talk to you guys first about, it kind of blew my mind, honestly. I was like, why are we doing this? What the fuck? I'm sure you heard of it. It's Nick Diaz coming back and fighting Vicente Luque, man. Should be, I was really excited when Nick Diaz came back the last time against Robbie Lawler. He was off for, I don't know, like 5-6 years, I want to say. Retired, obviously, doing his own thing. And then, holy shit, he's fighting Robbie Lawler. Oh my God, that's actually fucking interesting. I actually want to see that. It's a rematch. The first fight, Nick Diaz famously there's a video of people telling him in the backstage of the fight that, he's not necessarily a striker, right? Or it was like an interview or something. And he's like, oh, I'm not a striker. Okay, watch this. And he goes out and knocks out Robbie Lawler, who at the time was, he was a champ, so he was the best at the time. So he proved the point right there. So, fucking amazing moment, classic moment, instant classic. The fight also was instant classic. I think the fight might be in the Hall of Fame. I'm not sure. If not, it definitely will be. But when that fight was announced, I was like, all right, well, let me see what's up, And then the product that we got, unfortunately, was not good, Not because of Robbie Lawler. Robbie Lawler had been, at that point, a little bit more active. Nick Diaz, like I said, he already been gone for like 5 years. So that fight made a little more sense to me, honestly. But then the Nick Diaz that we saw that night, it was honestly, for lack of a better words, it was a little bit embarrassing. It was like, oof. I mean, that fight was, from what I recall, not competitive at all. So the fact that we saw that, and then he takes, I don't know, 3 years off, 2.5. I don't know how long it's been. I know it's been like 2 because I was in my other apartment and I know exactly where I was when I was watching the fight. So we got that product. It wasn't good. And I was like, all right, well, I guess Nick Diaz is now done for sure. And there was rumors that the only reason Nick Diaz came back to fight was because, he was short on cash. He was in debt, or owing people some money, So, if he's doing it for those reasons, unfortunately, that's a little sad in my opinion, and it just, it's the horrible way of ending a perfect, not perfect, but like such a legendary career that Nick Diaz had, and that legacy that he built. And that famous Nick Diaz army. I mean, the guy's a superstar, bro. And him and his brother, Nick and Nate, I mean, both of those guys, they could totally go on a 6-week, like a 10 fight losing streak. And nothing happens. Nobody cares. Like, they will still be extremely famous superstars. They will still fight some of the biggest names, you know? So it's not a matter of that. It's just a matter of how likable they are. So it is tough to see Nick Diaz come back for the wrong reasons, and specifically against someone like Vicente Luque, who has been a little bit more active, you know, and is obviously younger. So it's a dangerous fight, man, for Nick Diaz. And I don't know why this fight got announced. I mean, it was kind of random and kind of awkward, and also I saw when Dana White announced it, and he was kind of it was kind of like a random, like, oh, by the way, Nick Diaz is fighting this guy, blah blah blah. And I was like, holy shit, what? Like, well, usually it would be a little bit more hype if it was someone that big and famous like Nick Diaz coming back. You know, Vicente Luque is currently ranked, by the way. I just looked at his profile. He is currently ranked 14 in the world in the welterweight division. And he's fighting Nick motherfucking Diaz, bro. That makes absolutely no fucking sense, bro. And I'm sorry, but it just makes no sense. And I get it. Like, I hope those rumors are not true. But yeah, it seems like Nick Diaz is really just chasing maybe a paycheck, you know, or hoping that maybe he would do something on that fight that's kind of spectacular and like, holy shit, Nick Diaz is back, you know, and potentially get a bigger money fight, you know, potentially fight, I don't know, Conor or someone like that, a big money fight. Imagine Conor versus Nick, bro. That would be a good fight. You know, if Nick looks somewhat decent against Vicente, if he's able to hang, if he maybe wins a round or two, you know, okay, give me that fight. That's the fight I want. That's the actual fight I want, honestly. Like, in the last video, I was talking about Conor. I was talking about potential matchups. I was talking about, you know, some people, you know, Gagey, Holloway, Makhachev, you know, obviously he's fighting Chandler. But I think that if Nick Diaz looks somewhat good against Vicente Luque, that could be a possibility, bro. That could be a possibility, you know? Obviously, Nick Diaz was the absolute last person on my mind for coming back to the UFC. Like, if you're talking about guys that are currently retired that might come back, Nick Diaz is at the absolute last, you know, at the bottom. Like, there's no way I had him in my mind. So last week when I was talking about that, I obviously didn't even think of him, you know? But now that I'm kind of like, now that we have this fight officially announced, I'm like, okay, you know, that's not a terrible idea, especially if he looks good against Vicente. And Conor is able to fight the other Diaz brother, so that's kind of fucking cool. Imagine that trash talk. That would be fucking awesome. Another fight that got announced was Tony Ferguson versus Michael Chiesa. You know, Tony, another guy that's unfortunately following on some tough times. He's in a crazy losing streak. I think like 6 or 7 losing streak, unfortunately. So it's tough, man. You know, it's been a little tough for him for sure. Every time he fought, like his past, I don't know. Let me see. I'm looking at his record right now. 1, 2, 3. His past 4 or 5 fights have all been, maybe he's going to retire in this fight. And then maybe he's going to retire on this fight. And then he doesn't. And then maybe he's going to, and then he doesn't, you know? And that's been the story for Tony Ferguson for the past 5 or 6 fights, bro. You know, and then he looked actually decent against Michael Chandler, you know, but then he gets knocked out horribly. He gets knocked out horribly, and, you know, unfortunately, then he loses against Bobby Green, tough fight. Then he loses against Paddy Pimblett. I mean, just a young savage, you know, that Tony had not that great of a chance against him. But you know, it makes you wonder, like, where is he at in his career where he wants to continue to compete? And going back to kind of like Nick Diaz, is like, well, is he obviously he's doing it for financial reasons, right? But I mean, Tony has been in some big fights, so I don't, he's been the main event a couple of times as well. So I don't, he was at the top of the division for a long time, went on a crazy win streak, probably accumulated a lot of bonuses. I would think that Tony has some decent money tucked away in order to say, all right, well, I think I'm good, or at least have like a house paid off, something like that. I'm a fucking, bro, I love gossip. I would love to like have a more inside look at some of these fighters, as their life and stuff like that. Like, how are they really doing? Like get to know them a little bit more on their personal life, Like, how is Nick doing, with financial, like, what is he, like, is he in trouble? Is he in debt? Like, I know it's bad, but I'm so nosy. I just want to know, bro. Like, I just want to know, because I don't know why someone like Nick Diaz would book a fight, but, anyways, I'm just, whatever. Chito Vera versus Davison Figueiredo also got announced. That's a crazy fight. That's a crazy high-level fight. Obviously, you have Davison coming up in weight, a weight class, and doing it in fashion, winning a really good fight. Who was it against? Against former champ Cody Garbrandt, UFC 300. 300. That was a good showcase that Davison is, really serious about being in this division, and that he can probably hang, with the 145ers. So, not 45, sorry, 35ers. So Cheeto is going to be a crazy test for Davison. And it's kind of crazy that for both of them, I think it's a little bit fast of a turnaround. I mean, Davison just fought at UFC 300. But I mean, this fight, this is not for another like 2 months. So it's okay, I guess. And Chito obviously coming off a great fight against Sean O'Malley, who, Chito, I was expecting way more. I mean, I'm a huge Chito fan, and I was hoping he would win that fight. I'm also a Sean O'Malley fan, though, but I just like Chito, man. He looks like such a nice and genuine dude, and just a cool dude, man. And so I was like, oh, come on. It would be so great if he wins, and then you get a rematch, and it's kind of it builds up a story. So it's good. I mean, technically they're 1-1, so who knows? There could be another rematch. And then we have Corey Sandhagen, who will be facing Umar Nurmagomedov. I think that fight was supposed to happen a while back, if I'm not mistaken, like even before Corey fought Chito, I want to say. So yeah, that should be a great fight. I've been saying this for, I don't know, like a year or two now, but I think one of the best fights you can put in the bantamweight division is Corey Sandhagen versus Sean O'Malley. That's the fight that I've been wanting to see. I personally thought Corey deserved the title shot before Chito Vera, but I believe he was injured or something. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. But yeah, it's great. It's great that they booked this fight. That's definitely a good fight to look forward to. It's going to be a high-level fight as well, man. Corey's an amazing striker, dude. And obviously Umar, decent striker, but then obviously he has the crazy, Dagestani wrestling, like Islam, like Khabib. So it's always good, man. It's always good when you have a couple of high level fighters like that, for sure. All right, well, moving up to UFC 302 this week, man. I mean, the card it's okay. It's not too stacked. I mean, on the prelims, there's really nobody to watch out for. There's a few high level fights like Jelton Almeida versus Alexander Romanov, both ranked, so that should be a good high level fight in the welterweight. So I'm excited for that one. And then, the main card, it's okay. Randy Brown versus Eliseu Saleski dos Santos, Nico Price versus Alex Morono. And then it gets good right here. We have Kevin Holland versus Michal Oleksiejczuk. I'm so sorry for that name. I apologize, but he's from Poland. That should be a good fight too, man. He's unranked, and Kevin is currently ranked 15 for the middleweight division, man. And Kevin Holland is always an exciting fighter to watch. His striking is really good, really high level. Unfortunately, has lost a couple of his last fights. He lost against Michael Venom Page. He lost against Steven Wonderboy. He lost against JDM, Jack de la Magdalena. So it should be this should be a good fight. I really haven't heard much about this cat, Michal. He's from Poland, so I'm assuming he's a tough dude. Probably wrestling heavy. So it should be a good fight. If Kevin loses to this guy, this is the thing that I kind of realized, that if he loses to this guy, he's currently ranked 15. Kevin, this would be second 2 fights back to back that he loses to a non-ranked fighter, right? Now, yeah, MVP, I think right now he's currently ranked like 13, but at the time he wasn't ranked when he fought MVP Kevin, because he wasn't even in the UFC. So yeah, he was a high-level guy, but still unranked. So that's a crazy little fact to kind of like, for Kevin, that sucks if he loses and he falls out of the rankings, because he's currently 15. He's at the very, very bottom of the rankings in the division. And I mean, not the bottom, but top 15, which is the one that really matters. Because there's a lot of more guys up after 15 that nobody's even heard of. But I don't know how deep it goes. I'm assuming it's like at least 50-ish to 100. I don't know. That's actually a great question. I don't know how many actual fighters are in the roster. But if he loses this one, man, it's tough, because he's going back. You know what I mean? I mean, he's supposed to be moving up. He's still young. At one point, he was, in my opinion, a great contender for the title, and unfortunately just, has had some bad luck and has had some bad matchups. And a lot of it has to do with maybe like, he definitely could have won against Wonderboy if he would have utilized more of his wrestling. I think he was like so dead set on beating Wonderboy on the feet that it just didn't really work out for him, and then Wonderboy obviously being an amazing striker. I mean, it's a thing that, guys like Khabib and guys like Islam do so well. Like, they obviously are great wrestlers and grapplers, and that's what they do, right? They don't care that a fight is boring. They're like, yeah, I still got the win. Like, who cares, right? So yeah, it's a little tough for him. I mean, he did defeat some cool cats like, Ponzinibbio, I'm seeing right here, and Michael Chiesa. So those are great names to have under your belt for sure. So yeah, I mean, overall, he's got a great run, dude. I mean, he's obviously not a vet, but he's a seasoned fighter in the UFC. He's been doing it for a hot second. And the guy is super fun to watch, and just also a great guy just to watch on interviews. He's funny. He always try to, make jokes and shit. So this fight should be interesting and high level. Now, the co-main event of the evening, you have Paulo the Eraser Costa versus Sean Strickland. This now we're getting super high level, because now we have former champ Sean Strickland versus, fucking stud of a guy in Paulo Costa. And, so let's break it down a little bit, man. Definitely these last 2 fights, I break it down a little more, Obviously Sean, former champ, defeated, obviously shocked the world in defeating Izzy, and then got into a really, really close split decision against DDP and lost the belt. But former champ, and then before that, obviously he had some great wins, and then most people know him too for getting knocked out against Alex Pereira, which, it's whatever, man. Alex is Alex, so it's cool. But now he's chasing Paulo Costa, who unfortunately in the past, 5-6 years has not been really that active. I was actually looking at his record before I was recording the video, and I kind of noticed something funny, that he hasn't fought twice on the same calendar year since 2009. No, not 2019. Since 2019, he has not fought twice on the same calendar year, which is kind of crazy. This would be the first time since 2019 that's going to happen, because he fought in February. So now he's fighting again. So calendar year, I'm talking from January 1st to December 31st, So this is the first year that's happened for him. So he's had some great fights. He's had some wars. He had a really, I would consider a war against Luke Rockhold. It was a great fight. Not gonna lie. Then he had a war against Whitaker. Both of them went to decision. One against Rockhold, obviously, and then lost against Whitaker. Before that, he loses to Vettori, and he also misses weight that day. He came like 8 pounds or something crazy above weight, which is insane. Before that, he gets knocked out by Adesanya. And then, this is the fight I want to get to. Before he fought Adesanya, he fought Yoel Romero. Now, that day, that night, Paulo Costa looked fucking amazing. I mean, he looked like a future fucking champ, And, Yoel Romero, a little bit older, but no fucking punk, dude. I mean, that guy is scary. We all seen Yoel fucking do crazy shit. So again, that fight was 2019. That was like fucking 5 years ago. If we get a remotely close Paulo Costa to that night, if he's able to somehow tap in and, become that Paulo Costa that fought Yoel Romero that night, it's, we're going to get a good fight. We're going to get I'm not saying he's going to win. I'm just saying we're going to get a really good fight. Because I guess I'll just come out straight and say it. Like, I think Sean Strickland is going to win this fight. When you look at both of the guys' skill sets, their style of fighting, and combine that all plus their previous 5 fights, their previous record, Sean is for sure the better fighter. I mean, and if you want to go be a UFC math, which we know obviously doesn't always translate, it doesn't always work, but Sean knocked out Izzy, and Izzy knocked out Paulo Costa. So, But again, I don't base anything off of that because that honestly does not matter. It doesn't work like that. I mean, yeah, the rankings are there for a reason, just to kind of see who's where, and what they need to do next. But as far as the MMA math, it doesn't always mean that the guy number 5 would absolutely 100% of the time defeat the guy number 6. Like, it doesn't work like that. So yeah, I don't really take that into account. So it's just, I still think Sean is going to win this fight. I mean, the thing with Sean is his fucking boxing, bro. He has phenomenal boxing and phenomenal defense. I mean, the way I see it, it's a little bit Mayweather-esque. It's like a little bit of the shoulder roll, and kind of like he does this a lot, and then he's really good at going from this position to straight popping like a 1-2-3 combo, So, and then I said this after he fought Izzy. So the thing he does great, Sean, is he combines those combos. He always goes in when he's in the pocket and he's about to go blast. He throws at least 3 to 4 punches, and then at least 2 of them will land or something like that, And I think that's ultimately what got him the win against Izzy. Like, yeah, he almost knocked him out in the first round, but that's whatever. He then dominated the rest of the fight with that style, with just volume and just going forward and being the aggressor and just throwing volume and hoping to land more than your opponent, but then also having great defense where you're not getting hit, you're not really getting touched. There wasn't really any time in that Izzy fight that Strickland was in danger, like not even once. And that's crazy to think, considering you're talking about Israel Adesanya. I mean, that's insane. The guy's a savage, And then obviously, lost a very, very close split decision against DDP, which, I think myself and even a lot of other people gave that win to Sean, and even Dana White himself said, I 100% thought that Sean won that fight. It's whatever, it is what it is. It's, it happened, so it's cool. But I'm glad that this fight is actually happening because I think it's a very high level fight, obviously, but then I think Paulo, unfortunately, has never grasped that top again. Ever since he fought Izzy and lost, that was the one and only time he's ever even, scratched the surface. If you want to think of the championship being the ceiling, he's barely scratched that. So if he's able to defeat Sean Strickland, former champ, obviously, then he's right there, in my opinion, for a number one contender fight, you know? And the other interesting thing about this fight is that on the other side of the coin, in about like a month or two, month and a half, maybe less than a month, I think, we have Khamzat Chimaev versus Robert Whittaker. Which one to you is the number one contender fight? That one or this one? In my opinion, it should be this one because Sean is in it and he's a former champ. And then Robert was also a former champ, but, you know, many champs ago, or not many champs ago, but a few champs ago, you know? So Sean is the newest, I would say, former champ. So to me, that's the one that it will be the number one contender fight. Now, what the UFC could do is do the winner of Sean and Paulo versus the winner of Khamzat versus Robert. Then you have a true number one contender fight. But I don't think that's going to happen. That would be the smart thing to do. I think it also plays a factor on how these guys win the fight, you know? So like if, for example, if Paulo knocks out Sean Strickland in the first or second round in a spectacular fashion, and then on the other side you have Khamzat and Robert maybe going to like a 5-round decision, which wasn't maybe super meaningful, you know, of a fight, then you can give the argument that, okay, well, let's give the title shot to Paulo Costa, all right? But if both fights are similar and they play out similarly, then I think it makes sense to, you know, then from that, you know, if you do math, 4, then 2, then 1. So that's how you get a number one contender fight. Now, to this whole quadruple, to this whole orgy right here of guys, you have a 5th member that's just watching from the sidelines. It's Israel Adesanya, you know, and if I'm him right now, currently, you know, end of May 2024, if I'm him right now, I'm not making any decisions. You know, I'm sure the UFC has probably been pressuring him to book a fight or to come back, you know. If I'm him, I'm letting this fight play out, really. And then I see who's at the top, who's holding the belt. You know, maybe he waits until someone else fights for the belt and then he comes after that. Or I don't know if he would like to, like, it depends on where he has to step in, right? If you look at the journey of the division, it's where does Izzy want to step in, you know, before any of those 4 guys gets a title shot or after any of these 4 guys gets a title shot and potentially fights and wins or loses, you know? So then we could get either the Izzy and DDP fight or Izzy and whoever defeats DDP. So there's a lot of options right here. So right now I see 4 clear options for Izzy to possibly fight in the next year or so, I would say. Depends on how fast these fights go. I think if these 2 fights play out and nobody gets seriously injured, you could potentially have a DDP fight, you know, later this year, you know, sometime around early fall, you know. And then if possible, then the Izzy fight towards the end of the year, maybe like December or something, or early next year. I think that is what makes sense. So if I'm Izzy, that's what I'm doing right now. Is I'm, all right, you know what? Stepping back, you know, I got money, I'm relaxed, you know, just I would focus on training and just staying healthy, training your body and training your mind, and then let this play out. Right now, this is the perfect setup for Izzy to say, let me see how this plays out. Because we have 2, for sure, top fights confirmed that are happening real soon. So we'll have answers as far as this division goes. We'll have answers. But I give Sean, going back to the fight, I know I kind of go, you know, along a while sometimes on tantrums, but going back to that fight, I definitely give the edge to Sean Strickland. Now, if you break it down as far as skill sets, striking, Sean. What I would like to see from Sean, though, is to mix up more of his striking, man. Throw more leg kicks, you know, throw more knees. I feel like Sean would throw good knees because he's got like a good, tall frame. I feel like he'll be good at throwing more knees, but he's strict boxing. And then he also has really good wrestling, but he doesn't use it all the time. He rarely uses it. So I think he was able to mix some of that. You're in the money, baby. Now, I don't know how close to the mat you want to get to Paulo, the Eraser Costa, because he is a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. So, and for what I've heard, a very, very high level black belt. So obviously, if the fight goes there, if I'm Paulo Costa, what I'm doing is I'm looking for a takedown. And again, that's tough because Sean is a very, very good wrestler, but I'm looking for that takedown because that's probably going to be one of the only ways to end a fight early against Sean Strickland. But who knows? I mean, Paulo also has decent striking, not the best, but at least he does mix it up a little more with some kicks and stuff like that. So I want to see that from both of those guys. Guys, homework, write this down. Sean and Paulo, I'm your coach, write it down. Mix it up a little more, okay? Both of you make the fight a little more interesting, okay? I want to see more knees. I want to see more high kicks, okay? Possibly some elbows, but, I'll be happy with the former. And then mix it up a little bit on the wrestling. What's up, bro? Show us what you got. Make the fight interesting. I think this fight has a potential of, looking at some of these guys' records, a lot of their fights go all the way to decision. What I would hate is for this really high level fight to just be a snooze fest and go to decision, And yeah, I mean, if that happens, then it is what it is. But then if they do that, then what I was talking about, that leaves the opportunity for then Khamzat or Robert to say, all right, watch. That's how you guys fought it? Oh, okay. You don't want the belt. All right, let me see what I can do. Watch. And then they go out, do something spectacular, and that locks them the title shot, So, I mean, we saw that. We saw that with other people. We saw with Dustin, who went out and did something spectacular. Boom, title shot, right? And, I mean, that doesn't count as much because it was also a timing thing where Justin was already booked for the BMF, because technically speaking, I felt Justin Gage should have gotten the title shot. But it is what it is. So it's already happened, and that fight is, obviously happening soon. So we'll see how it plays out. But yeah, Sean Strickland, I give him the slight edge. So I think he's going to win. If I want to give you an official prediction, I would say, I hate to say this, but Sean Strickland by decision. It goes all the way. Also, I don't know if it's a 5-round fight or a 3. I think I heard somewhere it was 5. Paulo Costa is the underdog, obviously. And then, wow, I mean, Sean Strickland is ranked number 1, and Paulo Costa is ranked number 7. So a little bit of a difference there, but, By the way, something crazy that I saw, and then last thing, and then I'll move on to the main event. Something crazy about Paulo Costa's resume. When he debuted in the UFC, he went on a 3 streak. He went on a 3-fight win streak, all by KO, back to back to back. That's fucking impressive. It was like 3 or 4, I think, and then overall he went like 6 fights undefeated before he fought Izzy or something like that. So the guy has skill, man, and the guy he hasn't been as disciplined as I think he should be. But if he really has a change of mindset and say, all right, let me just actually focus and actually go for the belt instead of just fucking around, then he can make something happen, Well, that brings us to our main event of the evening. Dustin El Diamante, the Diamond Poirier, versus Islam Makhachev. It doesn't get better than this. Than honestly, like I said earlier, the lightweight division has consistently given us some high level, high pay-per-view, high profile main events, title fights, title eliminators, like this division has been constantly at the top, at the fucking top. So let's talk about it. I mean, obviously you have Dustin, who did lose to Khabib Nurmagomedov about 5 years ago, and obviously Islam is like Khabib's younger brother, so trained by him, obviously. So that automatically puts kind of like this doubt, this thought on people's mind that, well, if Islam is trained by Khabib, and then a lot of MMA experts also say that Islam is like a better version of Khabib, He's a better striker for sure, and a little bit more, I would say, like just more overall well-rounded, athlete, and a more well-rounded MMA fighter. Um, Younger too. I mean, in his still kind of in his prime. He went through a tough time earlier in his career where he couldn't really book fights because I mean he was the fucking boogeyman. I mean, nobody wanted to fight him. This was after Khabib had retired, so everybody knew how good Khabib was, and everybody was trying to see how good these Dagestanis were, fighting. So nobody fucking wanted to fight him because of that, bro, which is kind of crazy. So how old is Islam Makhachev? He has to be in his early 30s for sure, right? He is 32. Yeah, I guess that right. Let's go. So he's definitely a little bit younger. I would say I would consider him to be right now on his prime. And Dustin, on the other hand, I don't think he's currently on his prime. He's still a great, dangerous fighter, but nobody's really talking about in the Benoit Saint-Denis fight. We saw Dustin knock him out spectacularly, which is great. Like I said, he came out and did something spectacular. Not to take away anything from Dustin, but Saint-Denis, what I heard, also was sick. He had staph infection, and he was taking medicine for that. So he was probably not a 100%. Now, for example, watching that lightweight fight, okay, the Dustin versus Saint-Denis, watching that fight and then watching Charles Oliveira versus Arman Tsarukyan, it wasn't close, bro. Like, it was much, much higher level. I'm saying Charles and Arman were a higher level, 100% noticeable. So the first thing I noticed when watching Dustin versus Saint-Denis is like, well, but these guys are also, they're like a little bit in slow motion. They're a little bit slower. And even compare them to obviously younger fighters in that same fight card. I think that was 299 or 298. Which is crazy that Dustin's already fighting again this fucking weekend, by the way. It's kind of wild considering he just kind of fought. But that fight to me was not the highest level. Now, Saint-Denis is a killer. Don't get me wrong. He's really high level. But he's also a guy that just got into MMA kind of recently. So he was already like a grown adult after he got into MMA. And again, he was sick. So really, how good of a version of him we saw? Was he a 50%? Was he at 70%? It's hard to tell. If I had to guess, judging by his previous fights, he was probably at like a 60, 70%. And then obviously you have a motivated Dustin Poirier, a phenomenal striker, Dustin Poirier. I mean, that title's still there. He's a great boxer. Knocked out fucking Conor McGregor, so won against Max Holloway. I mean, the guys fought the who's who. I was watching his interview with the press conference at the, not the press conference, but just the interviews they do individually, like the media day in the UFC YouTube channel. And the guys fought the who's who. He said that himself. Like, I've fought every single high level lightweight for my, the past 10 years of my career, right? That puts fucking miles on you. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not sure, but definitely puts miles on you and definitely weathers you a little bit, At the same time, you gain experience and you gain knowledge of, okay, I've seen this before. Probably there's nothing in the octagon that he hasn't seen. Even Islam's wrestling, okay, he already faced Khabib, so he's seen that, So it's kind of a mix of, okay, you're probably getting your fight IQ is getting higher, but your body's deteriorating little by little. So if you want to go based off that, Islam is the fresher fighter, younger, obviously undefeated, you know what I mean? Obviously the number one pound for pound right now. That's another thing to take into consideration, that he's right now technically the best MMA fighter in the world. At least considered by other, I mean, the guy's a fucking savage, man, like, I'm a huge Charles Oliveira fan, and when this guy this patch of Charles so easily. I was like, oh my God, this guy is a nightmare. And then everybody knocked him for being mainly just a wrestler, kind of like Khabib, just holding guys down. Okay, he said, all right, watch this. Knocks out Volkanovski with a high kick. And a lot of people say that he is definitely a better striker than Khabib was. As far as wrestling, I'm not sure. I think Khabib had better domination as far as keeping guys down and as far as just 100% not letting them go and just drowning them. But also, I think Islam has better finishes. So, I mean, they're very similar. They're right there. I mean, their style, we're splitting hairs right here. I mean, these guys are almost the exact same fighters, right? But if you want to get technical, this is when I'm breaking it down. This is what you guys are here for my expertise. So it should be a good fight, though. Now, the other thing to keep in mind, if you want to kind of give Dustin some flowers, is that, yeah, if you look at his record, compare it to Islam's record, a crazy fun fact is that other than Charles Oliveira, Islam hasn't fought a top level lightweight. Like, other than Charles, who was ranked number 1 at the time, other than that fight, if you exclude that fight, Islam has not fought a lightweight in the top 5, for sure 10, his entire career. He's fought only one ranked lightweight in his entire career. Yeah, I mean, he fought Volk twice, who was the featherweight champ. But again, we're getting technical here. So he hasn't fought any ranked lightweights. Okay? This is why when he got a title fight, or when everybody was saying like, oh, Islam, he's next. Okay, well, what have we seen though? We haven't seen much, Obviously, he's great. Obviously, after the Charles fight, we're like, all right, well, yeah, this guy's a fucking champ. But if you exclude that fight, he hasn't fought any top lightweights. So, if you want to talk about experience, obviously Dustin has the bigger experience. But I mean, there's going to be a tough fight, bro. It's going to be a super, super tough fight for Dustin. The only way I see Dustin kind of winning this fight, I mean, I think knockout is the only way. I mean, if they're pretty even on the striking, let's say on the striking and boxing, they're pretty even. Islam's going to be, obviously better on the wrestling. So points are going to go his way. So if they do that for 5 rounds, if they just strike and then grapple for a bit, but Islam has control, because I could see Dustin not getting submitted. I guess I should say that too. Like, I could see Dustin surviving some, because he's trained for them, and like I said, he faced Khabib, and he did actually pretty decent against Khabib. I could see that happening. So if they are pretty even on the striking and then on the wrestling, Islam has the edge, then he wins the fight. If the fight goes to 5 rounds. Islam could have, of course, finish him. There's only so many. Dustin's been through this, bro. Dustin's been through this with Khabib and with with Charles. He knows that there's only so many jiu-jitsu attacks that you can defend. You know what I mean? Like, you defend the first one, all right, well, there's another one coming, and then another one after that, and then another one after that. So to have a 100% success rate against someone like Islam Makhachev is highly unlikely. Highly unlikely. If he doesn't get you with the first submission attempt, there's another one coming. You know what I mean? Or there's going to be some readjusting on that first one to kind of lock it in a little more. So again, he can defend. His odds definitely will be better if he doesn't get taken down earlier in the rounds. If it's, the beginning of the round and, Islam's already on his back, on top of him, then that's not good. That's obviously not good at all. So it sounds silly, but obviously avoid getting taken down. Maybe study. I would hope that Dustin studied a little bit how Volk was able to do against Islam. Volk did that. Volk had Islam constantly on top of him, grinding on him, throwing submission attempts, and he didn't get submitted. So I guess if you want to talk about that first fight, like I was talking just a second ago, like the 100% success rate, Volk had that, against Islam, the first fight. And many, including me, say that Volk won that fight. So I guess Volk, you could say, is the only guy that has a 100% success rate defense against Islam Makhachev. So watch some of that tape. Watch what fucking Volk was doing. Copy what his style a little bit on the mats. Like, obviously I don't know a lot of jiu-jitsu, so I know the very, very surface if I'm watching. Like I could tell, like, just slightly, but obviously jiu-jitsu is an art form that just goes deep, and guys take decades perfecting their fucking jiu-jitsu craft. So I'm a very, very surface level when it comes to the jiu-jitsu. So all I'm saying is Dustin should definitely watch some of that tape, Volk versus Islam, the first fight, obviously, and see what you can implement in your game that Volk did against Islam, because obviously it worked. Obviously he weathered the storm. But the other thing Dustin could do is just make the fight super fucking dirty, man. He said it himself in the interview, is I need this to be a fight. If you let Islam go, if you let Islam get his rhythm, and it's tough because, again, he finds his rhythm so quick. So if there's going to be a knockout by Dustin Poirier, it has to be early. It has to be early, not only early in the fight, but I guess early on a round, that you guys stand up again and you're about to get going, bam, fucking, blast his ass. You know what I mean? And again, just the boxing, Dustin has the edge. I do give that. That's the only advantage really that Dustin has against Islam. And the way I look at fights a lot when I'm kind of choosing who's going to win, making predictions, is I look at how many tools does this guy have to win, So you're talking about Islam having the grappling, the wrestling, and the kickboxing, I would say. So 3, versus Dustin having the boxing, so 1. So that should tell you something of how sometimes I choose who's going to win a fight, So obviously Islam has way more tools to win. Therefore, the odds should be better. Don't take honestly, I'm not an expert. I know I just said I was an expert, but I'm not an expert at all. So do not make any bets. I'm not responsible for any money you win or lose. Okay. But if you want to look at it that way, statistically speaking, and this is proven. I mean, I'm not talking something that's not there. That's why Islam is the favorite. That's why we have underdog versus favorite. Because the guys that make those odds, they're kind of looking at the exact same thing. Islam has definitely way more tools to win this fight. Therefore, his odds of winning are better. His chances of winning are higher. So it's tough, man. It's gonna be a tough fight for Dustin. I think he can get it done, though, bro. I think he can get it done. It would be so good to see this guy who really, really deserves it. Talk about another guy that's such a fucking great dude, great dad. You can see, you know what I mean? And always helps others, always shouting out charities and always donating money. And shit like that, I love to see, bro. I love to see shit like that. So, plus, come on, who doesn't want to fucking rattle the division a little, huh? Fucking just grab the fucking division and rattle that shit. Like, who the fuck doesn't want to see Dustin? Who the fuck doesn't want to see the demise? Not even about Dustin, but who doesn't want to see the demise of the Dagestani, fucking legacy that it's been taking over the UFC for the past fucking decade, bro? Who doesn't want to see that fucking demise? I mean, these guys are fucking indestructible, bro. They're like robots, bro. They're like, they don't go away. They're there. They're not going back. I mean, you look at the embeddeds, and even Khabib says, like, all we fucking do is train, eat, sleep, pray, repeat. That's it, bro. These guys in their camp, all these guys in their camp and all their training partners, and even Bilal Muhammad is there with them a little bit, like, all these guys don't party. All these guys don't drink. All these guys don't care about fame or money. Like, they're not out doing interviews a lot. They're not They're not driving crazy cars. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, bro. They're so laser focused that it's fucking insane, you know? And I mean, it's a good thing. They're winners, you know, and they're obviously incredibly successful, obviously rich. But they don't give a fuck, bro. They don't give two fucks. I mean, that's all they do. Their whole life is fighting, you know, because, you know, if you look at, for example, the perfect comparison is, let's say, Khabib versus McGregor, right? I mean, McGregor, you know, having his toes dipped in a lot of other things, you know, whiskey and obviously more fame and doing more interviews and partying and going to events and then becoming an actor, you know. And then you know, obviously he didn't act back then, but you do have all those things. And then you face someone like Khabib that all he does is train, bro. Like, that's literally 100% of his time. If he's not training, he's probably thinking of training. If he's not training or thinking of training, he's probably watching tape. He's probably praying or probably eating fucking chicken and rice. Like, dude, that mindset and that mentality, I mean, it's ridiculous. It's fucking ridiculous. It's almost not fair. I would say if one of those guys, if Islam, how funny would it be if Islam all of a sudden is like this fucking crazy party boy, fucking not doing coke, fucking, you know, fucking all these bitches. He moves to LA or he moves to fucking Miami or something like that, and he's spotted at nightclubs and he's throwing money. Like it or not, he's gonna lose the belt at some point, and everyone will say, "Oh, it's because of this. It's because he," you know. Obviously, they're not gonna do that because they're so fucking religious. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of wild, bro. Again, I would love for Dustin to do something spectacular, and I'm kind of rooting for him, you know. But if you're being realistic, and if you you know, if you're being realistic, and if you don't want to take a big risk with your money, then Islam is your guy. I mean, that one's pretty straightforward. But again, not saying that Dustin couldn't do anything, man. And this is why we love the sport, is because I could come here next week and say, oh my fucking God, Dustin shocked the world, right? And that's what I want. I mean, yeah, that's what I want. Will I put like a lot of money on it? Probably not. But again, it is what it is. So anyways, that will be all for today, guys. Again, thank you so much for watching, sticking with me, and go ahead and leave a like. Go ahead and subscribe. Leave a comment. You know, I reply to those. I reply to every single comment. You know, I don't get a lot, but I'll reply to every single comment that I get. And yeah, man, thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Next week, I'm gonna come back and break down this results. So, peace.